Hello guys and welcome back to TNT Madness. Today we're going to be looking at a relatively old wall but still a really strong wall, that is the Pancake walls. But before we get into this video, I just want to address one thing, and that was my latest video that I did 2 days ago, and that was my unraidable chest vault thing. It was nowhere near unraidable. In fact, there's one thing I really overlooked, which was the fact you could place creeper eggs in the chests, and I thought that if you actually place it in, which I knew that it would blow up the block. But then I realized you would have the explosion radius, and then I realized even if the block is blown up, then if you place it, it will blow up everything. So I had a really noob moment there, and everyone went crazy in the comments, including people like the Napkin of Truth, and just all sorts of people came out at me. So I will be redoing that design, and probably like over this month, hopefully. Because I still have a really good idea in my head of how to do it, but it's just I really screwed up, and it's because I was rushed. That's why I didn't do a full factions episode. My Blue Yeti cord broke. There's a lot of things that happened, so I did sort of a half-rushed video, and I'm very sorry, and I hope for that not to happen again. But anyway, now that that's out the way, let's get on with this. So this is a pancake wall, and essentially all these are flat layers and slabs of solid blocks. And these are super hard to deal with, especially when they go from bottom to sky limit, because what happens is that when you hybrid them, they either hit the side, go down, and then of course you can hybrid them on the side, but you can also hybrid inside them, but they get stuck there, and unless you fire really, really fast, you're going to have a really hard time. So pancake walls are really hard to raid, and they are extremely strong, because even if you get a hybrid inside it, then you blow up that area, but then there's a huge hole, and then you got to deal with that too, and that's just super painful. And the reason you have solid blocks instead of slabs is because it slows down the TNT, so they have to use more propellant, and then it's honestly just an extremely painful wall to deal with, and I'll be showing an example of this with a hybrid in a second. But that's pretty much how pancakes work. So you cannot generate them, unfortunately. You do have to place them by hand, but they are just normal blocks, and you don't have to make them that wide, but they're still really strong. So now on to firing this thing and really just explaining how strong this wall is. So what we have here is a hybrid cannon, and I'm just going to demonstrate how hard it is to actually hit it into one of these bumps. TNT is 0.98 blocks high, so that means you have 0.02 blocks margin of error to actually fire this thing. So you have to be extremely precise, and that's not too bad with one-shots and larger cannons like my mini land, but with something like this, it's not that great. And even if you do somehow manage to explode into it, which I'll show shortly, and that was a horrible shot, it's because the TNT went slightly over to the front, but if we fire that again, then the TNT, that one's also going to be a horrible shot, not really. But as you can see, it's just really hard for it to shoot into here, unless you have a lot of propellant. And even if somehow you do manage to activate it, and the sponge doesn't want to work, but even if you do manage to hybrid inside here, you'll just get a hole like this, and then that hole will be annoying, because then when you try and hybrid in the same place, you'll have to fire down and down and down. And it's a bit like anti-nuke walls, except the difference is with those anti-nuker walls, you can actually, those are slightly harder to raid, because they are actually their main purpose is for actually nuking, stopping nukes. This wall won't stop a nuke, but it does completely destroy hybrids. It's really annoying to deal with if you have a hybrid, and you just have to go through all the layers, and it's just super frustrating, because that's 2 layers. You got to go through like 20, and you have to get through all of those layers. And one way you can do it is you can go up to one layer and then nuke it, and then another one, and then another one, and another one. But that's still super frustrating, and sometimes nukes are variable, because the nuke may not fire on the right tick, and then it might get stuck in the water, and then it may not explode. So it might fire down 10 blocks, then not explode, and then you might go down another 10 and then not explode, and then you might get 50 and then not explode. So it's just a really painful wall to deal with. The only downside of this wall is that it takes a while to build, just due to this. But for general purposes, it is quite hard to raid, and if anyone has any other ideas or good ideas of how to raid it, tell me in the comments below. But anyway, now we're going to be getting on to how to build this, even though it is extremely simple. So now onto the tutorial. What you're going to need is really any area that is as long and as wide as you want it to be. and this is because it's your base. But some guidelines though, I'd recommend that you make it at minimum 3 wide. That's just because when you have it shorter than that, it's sort of ineffective. But 3 is just enough where it becomes a nuisance, and I'd recommend about 10 max before you add a second one, just because then if they do get through there, they're going to be shooting through there all the time. So I'd recommend having a second one and then alternate the pattern. So what I mean by that is if you're building out of obsidian, which I'll get to in a second, then build it this one and this height so it alternates. That way I'll hit this wall and I'll have to restack. Just an idea, don't have to do it, but it's just an idea. So next thing is, it's really as wide as you want, and it's really easy to change when you go into corners, so don't have to worry about that. But block types of what to build this out of. I'd recommend cobblestone, even though unless you have a huge amount of obsidian, because the amount you'll be using for this is absurd. Even if you have that and you have the money, I still wouldn't recommend it, just because of course obsidian's hard to work with, because if you place it in the wrong spot you have to break it. It's just, if they do break through it, that's sort of a benefit, because they're going to be breaking through a lot, and it's just annoying because they will be able to break through it. It's just annoying how many times they have to. And also, I wouldn't use netherrack, because even though that is generally a cheaper material, I'd recommend that you use something like cobblestone, because it's just slightly more dense. Slightly more denser than netherrack, and it's quite a bit denser, to be honest, than netherrack, and I just think cobblestone is the perfect medium. If you want to decorate it, that's fine, but if you're just generally building this, I would recommend cobblestone. It's very cheap, no doubt you'll have a ton of it lying around somewhere, so I would just recommend using this. So what we have here for this is a 6 by some long amount of area. And actually, you could use this as your first pancake wall. So after you've made the area on where you're going to build it, all you want to do is go ahead and place water. And the one thing about this is you don't have to worry about watering your corners until the very end. But the next thing you'd want to do is I would lay out some sort of scaffolding with ladders on the side till you've gone to the end. And then go ahead and place down your second pancake wall. Or second pancake wall. For this tutorial, we're only going to be doing 2 pancake layers, just because it takes a while to build them, and I don't really want to build 20 more pancake layers. But anyway, after you've built your pancake layer and you've got to the very top and build your scaffolding, no doubt you'll probably have your whole faction building this with you. You can go ahead and then just essentially place water on top of here too, which you just want to do that for essentially every layer, because if you don't, then people can just dry shot it, and that is not fun at all. So after you've done this, and now let's say this is my top layer, all you want to do now is get rid of your scaffolding. So we'll get rid of all these blocks and then fill in these edges with water. So the final thing you want to do is water your corners, and one thing that I never really do is I say always water your corners, but I never really explain how. So here's my personal way of how to do it, is to go along to a block along this side, and then go ahead and make sure that your block is here. Then go ahead and place the water back down, and then place a block under this, but the water won't flow over this edge because there's a block here, so it'll just flow on down here. And you can remove these 2 blocks, and then it's, personally, that's just my simplest way. You get very efficient at doing it after you've done it for a while. Of course, you want to actually place the water, then the block first. But it's very, very simple, and I just recommend doing that for when you're building most walls. You don't have to, it's just a recommendation. But anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully, I won't have any giant stuff up videos like my last one. But if you do like this video, then please leave a like. But anyway, goodbye from TNT Madman.